Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to talk about some of the methods I use when I'm designing a large draft. Now this pencil sketch is on graph paper, and I really like graph paper because it means I can fit quite a lot of motifs on a single sheet of A4. Now this sketch is in 1x3 diagonals, so each stripe is one thread wide with 3 threads of another colour next to it, but the final draft is going to be in 2x2 diagonals, so each diagonal line is 2 threads wide. And I've drawn it out like this because it's easier for me to do, and the turning sequence will be exactly the same. I should mention at this point that I have dyslexia, so I find it quite easy to get lost in the middle of something with a lot of lines, and some of the methods I'm going to talk about here are ways that I work around that. So for the next step, I draw a frame around the motif, and I also draw in all of the horizontal and vertical mirror lines. So any time that a line changes direction, I'll draw in a pencil line between. And each of these sections around the motif is a 4x4 block. Next, I shade in all of the areas where the pattern lines are moving towards the left. And these are going to form the backward turns in the final draft. And the areas with no shading are going to form the forward turns. Next, I draw a little schematic of the motif with the boxes. Now, each of the small squares in the schematic represents a 4x4 square on the motif. And I shade in all of the boxes that represent the backward turns in the motif. I also put in a horizontal and vertical mirror line down the middle of the schematic. And again, this is going to help me keep my place when I'm transferring it into TDD. Then I open up a template draft in TDD. Now you can see that I've put in all of the fillers around the outside of where the motif is going to be. So that's these little diamonds and then the big diamonds in the middle. And I've turned the backward scale, so the visual scale, down to -10 so that I can fit all of the draft on the page at once, or most of it. It's 67 tablets wide and 70 pics long, so it's quite a big one. Next, I turn off the threads and I put in the horizontal and vertical rulers in the same positions as they are on the little schematic, which I've put in the top left corner so you can see it side by side. Then I click on the squares within the draft until I get a pattern of grey and white squares that match the schematic. And again, one of the little squares on the schematic is equivalent to 4 of the squares in the draft, just like it was in the pencil sketch of the motif. Next, I turn the threads back on and I turn the visual scale down, the backward turn saturation down to 0. And this helps me check that there aren't any mistakes in the draft and it's all looking the way I want it to. As you can see, it's now magically a 2x2 diagonal motif rather than a 1x3. And here we have the motif woven as part of the final band, side by side with the pencil sketch of the motif that I did. I hope this has been helpful and given you a little bit of an insight into how my brain works, or sometimes doesn't. And happy weaving!